And just as a reminder to everyone, at the conclusion of Thaniya's presentation, we'll stop recording. And at that point, you can put questions in the chat that I can read aloud for the presenters to whom they're addressed and to the rest of the audience, and that you'll also all be able to see in the chat.
So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. My name is Thaniya Shankar, and I'm a second-year neuroscience major. My research project is measuring empathy and theory of mind via Zoom in children with autism spectrum disorder. I will be conducting this study under the guidance of Dr. Catherine Staropoulos and PhD student Trisha Choi. Before we dive in, I'd like to start off with a quote from Alan Rosales. We need to learn to accept and celebrate our differences, and we need to continue our research in autism spectrum disorder in order to understand how we can best lend a helping hand. Conducting research on kids with autism is so important as it will help guide us in how to best support and care for neurodiverse individuals. As I've been working with autistic children, I've learned that each child has their own unique differences and challenges. We need to celebrate and appreciate their uniqueness rather than viewing their disorder as challenging. Here's the table of contents of what I will be discussing throughout my presentation. We'll start off with introducing key terms, provide a background of the literature, methods, expected results, and potential implications of my research study, and how it can expand our understanding of individuals with autism. So let's start off with the introduction. Some of the key terminology I will be using throughout this presentation are cognitive empathy, affective empathy, and theory of mind, also known as TOM for short. Empathy can be separated into two different facets, cognitive and affective empathy. Cognitive empathy is the ability to perceive and understand the emotional states of others. So for example, if a child were to witness his friend getting bullied, expressing cognitive empathy would mean that he would have been able to put himself in his friend's shoes and think that the bully was really mean. Affective empathy is the ability to share and resonate with those emotional states without any direct emotional stimulation to oneself. So for example, if a child was happy, another child expressing affective empathy would also start to feel happy. Theory of mind is an important social cognitive skill that involves the ability to understand your own and others' mental states, including emotions, desires, beliefs, and knowledge. So for example, theory of mind is necessary for understanding that other people might have different thoughts, feelings, or emotions than you do. Theory of mind serves as one of the foundational elements for social interaction. Prior research has shown that children with autism tend to develop theory of mind later compared to neurotypical children. Moving on to the background of my research project. My study will measure the constructs of empathy and theory of mind in children with ASD. The empathy questionnaire is a parent report measure of cognitive and affective empathy. The concept of theory of mind has been observed through the Salian test. The Salian test requires participants to listen to a story with accompanying pictures, which I will show in a couple of slides, and answer questions involving perspective taking. Due to COVID-19, researchers have not been able to conduct studies in person to further examine these constructs. Thus, the study is one way to measure these psychological constructs over Zoom to better understand social functioning in children with ASD. Now we'll look at my methodology. Pictured is a rough timeline of steps of my research study. Since my project is dependent on participants, I will start by using various recruitment strategies to recruit children who are eligible to participate. After the recruitment process, I will have parents complete the empathy questionnaire, or MQ for short, via Qualtrics as a measure of their child's empathy. Following that, children will complete the Salian test over Zoom, which is a behavioral measure of theory of mind. Finally, with all the collected data, I will be able to analyze the relationship between theory of mind and empathy in children with autism. Our targeted participants will be children between the ages of 3 to 8 years old. We will be testing 100 children in total, 50 with the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and 50 without. This will allow us to have a control group so we can compare our results of those with autism to those without. To recruit 100 participants in total, I will post the recruitment flyer on our lab's Facebook page. Contact families from UCR's psychology recruitment database and post flyers in local shops. So to give you a better understanding of the recruitment process, here's the Facebook flyer I will be posting. In recruitment flyers, it's essential to include the different eligibility criteria for participants, what participants are expected to do in the study, and the stipend we will be giving them after completing the study. I included images of animals on the flyer to catch the attention of parents and assure them that our study is child-friendly. As previously mentioned, I will be administering the MQ to parents. I chose to use the MQ because past researchers have tested its validity on children ages 1 to 6 years old, which is similar to the age of participants I will be working with, which is 3 to 8 years old. The MQ is a 20-item questionnaire completed by parents and represents 3 facets of empathy observed in young children: emotion contagion, attention to others' feelings, and pro-social actions. Parents will indicate the degree of empathy that their child expressed over the last 2 months on a 3-point Likert scale, corresponding to not at all, a little or sometimes, and clearly or often. To give a better idea of what kind of questions are asked on the MQ, I've broken it down into the different scales tested. In typically developing children, empathetic responses begin with unregulated arousal, which is called emotion contagion. To measure emotion contagion, some sample questions that will be asked include: when another child cries, my child gets upset too, and when another child is upset, my child needs to be comforted too. These questions test if one's emotions and related behaviors directly trigger similar emotions and behaviors in others. The next scale the MQ will be measuring is attention to others' feelings. An example of this is when my child sees other children laughing, they start laughing too. As stated in the name, these kinds of questions test one's capacity to attend to others' emotions with less personal distress. The last scale of the questionnaire is pro-social actions. Around age 2 in typically developing children, they learn to regulate arousal enough to engage in pro-social behaviors, such as consoling or sharing. Performing these actions will create strong and healthy social bonds for kids in the future. Some sample questions to test this are: when I make clear that I want some peace and quiet, my child tries not to bother me, and when another child starts to cry, my child tries to comfort him or her. The Salian test measures theory of mind and one's social cognitive empathy ability through a false belief task. False belief is the understanding that other people can believe things which are not true. To do this, one must understand how knowledge is formed, that people's beliefs are based on their knowledge, that mental states can differ from reality, and that people's behaviors can be predicted by their mental states. False belief tasks are commonly used in child development research to assess theory of mind. After hearing the Sally Ann story, children will be asked questions to test their theory of mind. So this is what I will be administering to children for the Sally Ann test. For the first slide, I will say Sally is on the left and has a basket, and Ann is on the right and has a box. Sally has a marble. Sally puts the marble into her basket. Sally then goes for a walk. Anne takes the marble out of the basket and puts it into the box. Now Sally comes back. She wants to play with her marble. Following this story, I will ask the critical belief question: where will Sally look for her marble? The child passes the belief question if they answer that Sally will look in the basket, where Sally initially put the marble. However, if they point to the marble's current location, which is the box, then they failed the belief question because they didn't take into account Sally's belief, as she didn't know that Anne moved the marble to her box. These conclusions are warranted if 2 control questions are answered correctly. Where is the marble really, which is a reality question, and where was the marble in the beginning, which is a memory question. Moving on to the expected results of the study, I hypothesize that children with ASD will display deficits in empathy and theory of mind due to their difficulties representing different mental states compared to children without ASD. I hypothesize that we will find a relationship between the MQ constructs, attention to others' feelings, and pro-social actions, and the theory of mind test. I also hypothesize that there will be no relationship between emotion contagion from the MQ and the theory of mind test. As we come to the end of the presentation, I will review the conclusion of the study and prospective results. Once I administer the empathy questionnaire to parents via Qualtrics and the Salian test to children via Zoom, I will better understand the relationship between the two concepts in children with autism. Following the intent of the study, it's important to talk about the potential implications of this work and how it can improve this field of research. Since my study measures empathy and theory of mind in children with autism, it will provide us with meaningful insights into social and cognitive functions in children with ASD. The results of this study may also serve as a tool for the development of educational approaches for children in a remote learning environment. Findings from the study will also allow us to develop ways to improve pro-social skills in children with ASD once we understand what skills they may struggle with. Here is a list of the references to create this study. And that concludes my presentation. I'd like to acknowledge my PI, Dr. Stavropoulos, and my mentor, Trisha Choi, for helping and supporting me throughout this entire process. The study is only possible with their support and guidance. Thank you all so much for coming out and listening to my emerging research project. I hope you enjoyed it.